myself, and then I'll lay some background on the peculiarities of Africa, and then related to BIM, before I talk about what BIM policies are all about and why they're important. Then I'll also explore some BIM policies in other parts of the world, and also some attempts so far across Africa. And then I also have a peek into Africa's BIM Report 2020, which was the first edition. And then after that, I'll also look at some of the barriers and drivers against BIM implementation in sub-Saharan Africa and finalize with a way forward. So without taking much time, BIM Africa. Of course, BIM Africa is a Pan-African community of construction professionals that are saddled with the responsibility of creating awareness, sensitizing, and regulating the adoption of BIM across Africa. So it's comprised of several volunteers coming from the industry, from academia, researchers, and so much other practitioners in the industry. So of course, these are some of the country representatives. You have representatives from Tanzania, from Algeria, from Tunisia, from Madagascar, from Ghana, from Cameroon. Of course, Architect Cedric is also our representative in Cameroon. And then we also have other reps from Angola, Ethiopia, Rwanda, and also the Democratic Republic of Congo. So I have representatives from different countries across Africa. So talking about myself, I'm an architect by background. So I'm also a BIM modeler and a system designer, right? I also have my company, Blaze Inc. So I'm a consultant and we specialize in digital integrations and BIM consultancy. And also I'm a content creator. I've authored a book. I've written several long and short form articles, and I also create content on a wide array of formats. Right? So I create a whole lot of content. And then talking about certification-wise, I'm an Autodesk certified professional for Revit architecture, Revit mechanical, both electrical and Revit MEP, both mechanical and electrical disciplines. And finally, I'm also an instructor at LinkedIn Learning. I became an instructor at LinkedIn Learning not so long ago, this year. So let's talk about Africa. So Africa, with these expansive landscapes and formidable animal life, which is the world's second largest continent, is filled with natural features, historical landmarks, religious monuments, archaeological sites, parks, and so many other things, right? So these are some popular examples of places you can find in Africa. We have the Sidi Bouzid in Tunisia, we have the Zanzibar archipelago in Tanzania, so many interesting places that you can find in our continent. So Africa is obviously one of the most beautiful continents in the world, right? So, but Africa, with such a huge cultural heritage and a burgeoning youth population, has a total population of about 1.7 billion. Despite all these things, all the inspiring destinations we find in Africa, the culture, the traditions, you also find out that Africa has a good share of the least developed destinations in the world. So we have all these beautiful destinations, but we're also one of the least developed continents in the world as well. So these are just some peculiarities about Africa. I mean, in the past few decades, there has been a massive urbanization in Africa. I mean, talking about urbanization, I'm talking about people moving from rural areas to cities or to urban areas, right? So sub-Saharan Africa, which is SSC, reached 40% urban back in 2013 with a GDP per capita of $1,018. And then East Africa and Pacific, which is other parts of the world, they reached the same level of urbanization in 1994 at a 3,017 per capita, GDP per capita. So when you look at this, see that while we are urbanizing, we are not developing at the same pace that other countries did when they got to this stage in their journey, right? So it's also projected that by 2050, Africa will reach a population of 1.2 billion urban dwellers, which is an urbanization level of 8% and an average density of 79 persons per square kilometer. And the continent's total population is projected to overtake Europe, South America, and North America combined within the next decade. I mean, currently, it's only Cairo, Kinshasa, and Lagos that are the mega cities you find in Africa. But then very soon, the likes of Dar es Salaam, Johannesburg, and Luanda will also follow suit. I mean, by 2030, according to World Bank 2015 study. So now, coming down to the construction industry, you also find that there has been a leap in digital transformation globally in the past few decades. I mean, one of the most discussed trends, both in academia and industry today, is building information modeling, otherwise known as BIM, right? So despite the numerous barriers that BIM has faced in different parts of the world, just like every new technology or process, it appears to have come to stay, right? BIM is kind of surmounting all the obstacles that we found on his way. So, but what exactly is BIM and why is BIM very important, right? So, when you look at the build sector, you see that will remain largely conservative for as far back as you can date it. I mean, the delivery process of the build assets is typically replete with so many wastes, missed deadlines, and exceeded budgets. I mean, the sector has one of the lowest profit margins, despite being a $10 trillion industry. And this is traceable to a lack of collaboration and coordination among the stakeholders involved in a typical construction project. So despite the fact that we're a very huge industry, we are very conservative when it comes to adopting innovation. And this is why BIM is very important. So building information modeling, according to the National Institute of Building Sciences, has been defined as a digital process, as a digital representation of the physical and functional characteristics of a facility that serves as a shared knowledge resource for information about that facility. And this forms a level basis for decisions during its life cycle from inception onwards. Right, so BIM is an information-centric process, and it's centered around collaboration and also parties in a typical project together. So having defined what BIM is, what exactly are BIM policies and why are they important? Right, so BIM as a technology, it also needs people, which is the users, and it also needs best practices, which is processes, and this needs to be adopted by the industry, and also it needs policies to facilitate the adoption process. So when we look at BIM, there are different components that can make BIM very successful. We're talking about the technology aspects of BIM, talking about the people, talking about the processes, talking about the policies. Some people refer to this as the PPTP framework, right? So you have the people, you have the policies, you have the processes, and you also have the technology. All these things need to come together to make BIM successful. So, but then what exactly is policies? So policies basically come in the form of drive by the government, which is the major client of the public concern projects. And this is essential for BIM adoption by the concerned industry because, like I mentioned earlier, the industry is strongly fragmented and is bound by strict regulations. Right? So BIM policies, they can range from a firm mandate of BIM in all publicly procured projects through legislation changes where necessary to provide financial and organizational aid down to low-level encouragement and support. So BIM policies can come in different ways. They can come in the form of mandates. They can come in the form of support. They can come in the form of, creating important documents to facilitate the adoption of BIM. But a lot of times, see that these are the push mostly come from the government. So that is how BIM policies usually come in. They help to support the people, the process, and the technology as a push from the government. So now, having defined what BIM policy is all about, let's embark on a little trip around the globe to even see how BIM policies have been implemented in several parts of the globe. So the first I want to talk about is Singapore. So as far back as 2004, Singapore made it obligatory to submit construction documents for all public construction projects via an internet platform which they called Connect. And this included the submission of BIM models in the software neutral IFC format, which is Industry Foundation Classes. Right? So BIM penetration in the Singaporean construction sector is accordingly among the highest worldwide today. So these are one of the first people to push out BIM policies. And then next, you also have Finland. So in Finland, public authorities have required the use of digital building models for all public projects since 2007, with projected cost in excess of 1 million euros. Right? All projects that cost more than 1 million euros have been mandated to make use of BIM. And then since then, comprehensive experience in the execution of BIM projects have been gathered. And this has been anchored in the Common BIM Requirements, which is the set of guidelines that was published back in 2012. So this is also one of the earliest countries to push out some BIM policies. And then you also have the US. So in the US, major governmental building owners, such as the General Service Administration and the US Army Corps of Engineers, have required the use of BIM methods for project execution for many years. So you see that this a lot of time in the US, it might not come as a mandate from the government, but it comes from Corps of Engineers or administrative bodies and regulatory bodies. Right, so you see that these people, they have already pushed out some execution documents. Like USAAC, for example, have published a comprehensive BIM roadmap and also provides templates for BIM authoring tools, as well as contract requirements on their website. So these are also some of the push that you find in the US when it comes to BIM policies. And then when you go to the UK, see that the key aspect of the 2011 UK construction strategy was to demand fully collaborative 3D BIM, which corresponds to BIM level 2. So back in 2011, UK, they pushed out about 2016 to mandate BIM on all their publicly funded projects. So These are for all centrally procured construction projects from 2016 onwards. And this is supported by an annual BIM survey that reports a significant increase in the adoption of BIM methods by the UK construction industry over the past year. So you see that the UK has a big push from the government. And then you also have France. So back in 2014, France initiated this plan de transitionnel numérique du bâtiment, if I pronounce it well, which is the acronym is PTMB. So with significant investment to support the transition towards digital technologies. So the PTMB published a roadmap in 2015, which is a BIM guide specifically addressing the needs of the building owners in 2016 and the transition strategy in 2017. So this is also how France have pushed for BIM policies and implementation in their country. And they also have Germany. So in Germany, the Ministry of Transport published a BIM roadmap in 2015 that defines the mandatory use of BIM methods for all federal infrastructure projects from 2020 onwards. So in this context, significant transition work is being carried out. Guidelines and templates for EIR, which is Employers Information Requirements, and BEP, which is BIM Execution Plan, are being developed, and a number of BIM pilot projects are also being conducted. So these are some ways that the German government have also pushed for BIM in their country. And then you also have Spain. So in Spain, a steering committee was established in 2015, and a provisional timetable was set with the recommended use of BIM in public sector projects by March 2018, and then mandatory use in public construction projects by December 2018 as well, and mandatory use in infrastructure projects by July 2019. So they have these timelines that they've set out to kind of mandate BIM in their public projects. So that's Spain. You also have Asia. So in Asia, aside from Singapore that I mentioned earlier, the likes of South Korea, China, and Japan are the most advanced countries with respect to BIM adoption. So Korea has a relatively long history of BIM adoption and already published its first BIM roadmap as far back as 2010. And the first BIM guidelines also published in 2011 and have been frequently updated ever since then. So these are some countries. See that a lot of countries across the globe have pushed out their various versions of BIM policies, some of them from government, some of them from regulatory bodies, some of them from industry associations and whatnot, right? So that's across the globe too. But how about Africa? So when it comes down to Africa, you see that there are very few initiatives taken by government and the likes to, standardize BIM and push out some policies around BIM implementation. But one of the common ones that you find is ECPMI from Ethiopia. So the Ethiopian Concerning Project Management Institute, they also undertook the task to define a roadmap for BIM implementation in the Ethiopian concerning industry, this ECI, of which further development and maturation are expected to be spearheaded by the Ethiopian Concerning Industry Council. So these are just some of the few examples we see across Africa. And then also there are some commendable efforts as well in Nigeria, in Tanzania, South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Cameroon, Senegal, Democratic Republic of Congo, and so many other countries. But really, there have not really been any standard policies that we've seen in non-African countries, like the examples I showed earlier. So of course, when you look at it, you see that adoption of BIM across Sub-Saharan Africa has been facing a lot of challenges, right? So which now leads me to have a look at the African BIM Report 2020, which is actually the first version. So being the maiden edition of the report, the survey was only completed and returned by about 500 respondents out of millions of professionals in the BIM sector across the continent. And this just attests to a relatively low comprehension of BIM process across the continent. So you see that a lot of people are not so savvy of BIM. They don't only understand what BIM is all about just yet, just like we see in this report. So these are some statistics from that report. So out of the respondents, 40% produced 3D digital models, while 34% produced 2D digital drawings that are not generated from 3D models. So you see that there's still a combination of 2D, 3D, and even so many other traditional methods of producing drawings, right? Like you can see from these statistics. And also, out of those respondents, 90% have heard about BIM, but only 45% have adopted BIM for projects in the organization. So you see that currently, the level of adoption is still way, way, way lower than the level of awareness. A lot of people are beginning to know about what BIM is all about, but they don't really adopt it just yet. So those are some of the things we see from this African BIM report. And they also have among the respondents who mentioned that BIM has been adopted within the organizations, it's only about 30% that have a full implementation of BIM for their projects, whereas they have 21% and about 12% of the firms who are partially or fully outsourced BIM for their projects respectively. So you see that even the ones that have adopted, that have implemented BIM to some extent, a lot of them just outsource it to external parties, either fully or partially, right? And then also the study shows that there is a balanced level of production of 2D digital drawings and 3D digital models among the respondents. So only 15% have used a model from the start to the end of the project, but 45% have worked collaboratively in design, but less than 30% have shared their models with team members within and outside the organization. So you see that the collaboration method here still is kind of scattered and the level of integration is still very low. And then, of course, the majority, which is over 70% of the respondents, strongly agree that using BIM results in operation and maintenance savings. But 40% strongly agree that BIM is not complete unless specifications are linked to the digital model. And about 5% strongly recommended the need for proprietary BIM objects from product manufacturers instead of generic BIM objects. So these are some information we could extract from the African BIM report. And also, about 70% strongly agree that the adoption of BIM across the African continent is slow, while clamoring for a government intervention to speed up the process. So which is where policies cannot begin to come in. So over 90% trust what they hear about BIM as well. And then of course about 16% and 23% of respondents currently utilize BIM in all or the majority of their projects respectively. But I can see that it's still very low. And then the majority of the respondents also strongly agree that adopting BIM will increase the speed of project delivery and profitability, and also improve the coordination of construction documents and make participation in international projects much easier, among so many other things. So of course, you can download this report for free from BIM Africa website, which is bimafrica.org. From the homepage, you can find it. So these are some insights we're able to extract from that report. So with this insight from the African BIM Report 2020, what then are the major barriers and drivers towards BIM adoption? So obviously, there's a whole lot of barriers and drivers towards BIM adoption across Africa. So to summarize that, I will reference another research that was conducted by engineer Dr. Masuhama Adema, and this was also completed last year as his PhD, as part of his PhD process, PhD thesis, right? So this study analyzed the barriers and drivers to BIM adoption in the Nigerian construction industry from adopters and non-adopters perspectives to allow an informed decision in developing a strategy for macro BIM adoption in Nigeria. So this basically used Nigeria as a case study. But then, just like the African BIM report, the sample size of the study was quite small, as the study subject awareness was obviously low. And then the study also used a mixture of purposeful sampling and the snowball method in the sampling and data collection procedure, right? But this is part of a PhD project. So from the study, the proportion of users to awareness of BIM in Nigeria has increased from 28 to 72 back in 2017 to 54 to 46. Just between 2017 and 2018, people that are adopting BIM is obviously increasing. So which is actually a good, is a step in the right direction. At least people are increasingly adopting BIM, even within the small sample size that I had, right? And then you know what is called the relative importance index. So basically, it was trying to rank the barriers and the drivers of BIM adoption. So basically, relative importance index and the ranking of barriers against BIM adoption in Nigeria from the study was carried out, and the study reviewed that the barriers ranked from 1st to 9th are highly influential to the adoption of BIM in Nigeria. So basically, he came up with about 14 barriers, and out of that 14, the first 9 were like the most influential. And this has to do with things like lack of expertise within the organizations, lack of expertise within project team, lack of standardization and protocol, lack of client demand, lack of government policy. So you can see government policy is one of the barriers as well. And then lack of additional project finance to support BIM, lack of collaboration among stakeholders, reluctance of team members to share information, and even industry's cultural resistance. These are some of the 9 barriers that were identified from that research. And then talking about the drivers, also did the same thing, relative importance index and ranking of drivers towards BIM adoption in Nigeria. From the study was also carried out. And the study reviewed that the drivers rank from 1st to 7th are significant to facilitate BIM adoption. So he also came up with 10 drivers. And out of the 10 drivers, the first 7 were the most influential ones. And this has to do with availability of trained professionals to handle the tools, proof of cost savings by the adoption of BIM, BIM software affordability, awareness of the technology among industry stakeholders, clients' interest in the use of BIM in their projects, operation and commitment of professional bodies in implementation, and also enabling environment within the industry. These are the 7 influential drivers that were identified from that research. And then after doing the relative importance index, he now did a further evaluation, and he was carried out to now compare the perception of those that have adopted BIM and those that have not adopted BIM. So ranking and scoring of the barriers and drivers among the adopters and non-adopters were nearly 50-50, which is percentage disagreement to percentage agreement. And this just suggests that the adopters of BIM in Nigeria are still at the early stage of BIM adoption. So even in as much as they've adopted BIM, they still perceive the whole process almost the same way as people that have not even adopted BIM. So this shows that they are just still at the elementary phase of BIM adoption. And this, using Nigeria as a case study, is almost the same thing across the sub-Saharan Africa, right? So basically, in the end of the whole process, he now identified the common and significant barriers to adoption of BIM after he had compared both adopters and non-adopters, and he came up with these important ones, which is also similar to what I mentioned before. So you have such things as lack of standardization of protocols, which is supposed to come from industry and government. You also have lack of expertise within the organizations, industry's cultural resistance, lack of additional project finance to support BIM, lack of client demand, lack of expertise within the project team, lack of government policy. You can see the policy is still here, and then lack of collaboration among stakeholders, and even a reluctance of team members to share information. So these are the barriers to adopting BIM across Africa. And then you also have the drivers, which is also after comparing the adopters and non-adopters, he came up with this. So the drivers this time, things that will help to drive BIM adoption is availability of trained professionals to handle the tools, proof of cost savings by its adoption, clients' interest in the use of BIM in their projects, enabling environment within the industry, awareness of the technology among industry stakeholders, cooperation and commitment of professionals to its implementation, and finally, BIM software affordability. So what can we drive from all this? So it becomes obvious that the BIM sector in Africa still has a long way to go as regards digital transformation. So these identified barriers, they need to be resolved, while the identified drivers need to be encouraged to formulate an effective BIM adoption framework in Africa, using Nigeria as a case study in this case, right? So basically, what's the way forward? To summarize, what is the way forward? So while the government-driven BIM policies are proving successful in many non-sub-Saharan African countries and regions, we might need to push upwards from the industry in our region. And this is because waiting on the government to create favorable and workable BIM policies in Africa might never happen without an industry push. So in as much as we've seen success stories from other parts of the world when it comes to a government push and kind of mandate and support, if we wait for that across Africa, we might never implement this. So what we need is things like this, discussions like this, industry push. From here we can now move on to government and get government to tell government what to do more or less, and then from there, government can help us with the policies to support the processes, the technology, and we the people, right? So before I actually round up, like I mentioned earlier, I'm part of BIM Africa. I'm also part of Blaze. So BIM Africa, we always do all this awareness every once in a while. We have this BIM monthly talk, and we also have a couple of events, both offline and online. And then also in Blaze, we have this online academy where we create online courses that people can purchase and go through. So if you visit blazeme.com as well, you can enroll for some of our courses. So which, of course, the way we do it is a subscription. Once you subscribe, you can access all the courses on the platform. So we have two packages, one package for professionals, another package for students. So we are also trying to support students. So as a student, you can access all the courses on that platform for just $20 for a whole year. So you can check out the link here, blazeme.com, www.blazeme.com, and you can see also have a lot of free content on the platform as well. When you visit the blog page, you can see all the conversations we have. Every 2 weeks, we always have these live sessions where we interview people and talk around activities centered around the construction industry in Africa. So just visit that link and you can learn more about what we do at BlazeMe. So thank you very much. At this point, I'll be available for any questions or any other information that you need from me. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I'm very happy and pleased that you were able to join us today and talk of the place of BIM policies in the African build sector. Building modeling information, there's no way to run away from it nowadays. So I'm very happy that BIM Africa still is available when it comes to Archi-Talk. So I'll ask the audience if there are any questions, and I'll come back to you with them. Stay tuned. Il y a des questions?
All right. All right, no problem. Thank you.
Prends le micro. Take the mic, please. They might speak in French, but I will translate it for you.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Okay.
Bonjour. Ma question est de savoir quelles sont les modalités pour être BIM Manager.
He's asking what are the modalities to become a BIM manager. I will better ask the question for him. What can I do if I want to become a BIM manager?
Okay, if I heard you clearly, you're asking the modalities of becoming a BIM manager.
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, BIM manager is not a discipline on its own. It's a necessity that has come up in the industry because of the adoption of BIM. So as a BIM manager, you need quite a number of hard and soft skills, right? You need to at least understand how several BIM software work, even if not in depth, at least. For you to manage people that use BIM software, you need to have an understanding of how those tools work. So you need a level of technical skills in that regard. And then, of course, you also need some level of IT skills because you are going to be bringing a lot of parties together. You are going to be collaborating. You are probably going to be making use of cloud-based platforms like Autodesk Construction Cloud and the likes. So you also need to understand how some of these IT platforms work. So you need technical skills, you need IT skills, you also need communication skills and collaboration skills because you are going to be interfacing with a whole lot of people. You'll be interfacing with the consultants, probably client rep, contractors, and whatnot on the project. Because ideally, for you to deploy BIM on a project, all these parties need to collaborate as early as possible on that project. So as a BIM manager, you'll be interfacing with a lot of people. So you also need those human skills. And then, of course, you also need to have a good knowledge of data management because BIM is data centric, right? For example, you're going to be extracting data for your cost estimation. You're going to be doing a whole lot of analysis. You're going to be doing a whole lot of cloud detection and all those things. So as a BIM manager, you are going to be dealing with a whole lot of data, right? So those are some of the things. I also need to have a management skill because you're going to be doing a whole lot of planning. You're the one that mostly going to be planning, after meetings, you're going to be planning how information is going to be, data drops is going to happen, who is going to bring what information, who is sending it to. So it's a whole lot of skills. You need technical skills, you need IT skills, you need communication skills, you need data management skills, and you need to, all these things come together to make up a good BIM manager. But of course, you don't have to know everything before you can start. Oftentimes, you can get those knowledge from experience. The more you interface with people, the more you learn how people work, and the more you improve. But those are some of the skills that are important to become a BIM manager. And of course, there are also some certification that are going on now. I have like a master's program from Ziggurat Institute of Ziggurat University, which is an online training, a 1-year master program. So also when you go through such training, you have a very robust understanding of what it takes to be a BIM manager. And also equip yourself with the skills. So those are some of the things. You might also find ways, things like CAN-BIM, Canada BIM Council, and so many other organizations across the globe. They also do some certification programs that can make you become a very proficient BIM manager.
Okay, I will translate your answer a little bit into French before taking the other answers. En fait, il dit pour être BIM manager, il faut avoir des compétences dans le data management, des capacités techniques, c'est-à-dire la maîtrise de l'outil, le logiciel, des différentes plateformes si possible. Mais si ce n'est pas possible de maîtriser toutes les plateformes et les interfaces, de maîtriser et de comprendre le fonctionnement de celles-ci, pouvoir les faire collaborer. Il faut comprendre le fonctionnement du cloud, il faut avoir des aptitudes humaines développées parce que c'est gérer des personnes, pas seulement des machines. Parce que chaque interface BIM est gérée par un corps d'état. Quand on prend le BIM, si on prend Revit par exemple, tu auras Revit mécanical, Revit structural, Revit MEP. Et maintenant, il y a des plateformes qui sont annexes. Peut-être même la prévisualisation, ça peut être un autre corps d'état externe qu'on fait avec peut-être 3DX Max, il y a Navisworks, il y a InfraWorks. Tu dois pouvoir faire collaborer tous ces corps d'état-là. Même si tu ne maîtrises pas tous les autres logiciels, tu maîtrises par exemple Revit, tu dois pouvoir faire entrer les données des autres, les faire sortir, les faire travailler ensemble. Pour computational skills, c'est-à-dire maîtriser l'outil informatique. Mais comme il a dit, tu n'as pas besoin de maîtriser tout ça dès le départ. Ce sont des compétences que tu peux acquérir progressivement. Il a cité le nom d'une école j'ai pas retenu, mais on pourra revoir la vidéo en ligne plus tard, dans laquelle tu peux aller te former from scratch, comme on dit, pour être BIM Manager. OK, all right. Any d'autres questions? Yes.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, I didn't hear you.
No, I just translated what you said
Okay, okay.
in few words
Okay,
in
thank
French.
you very much.
And then I'm asking if there are other questions, but it seems that you were quite clear in what you were trying to explain. I hope to see you soon live in the next Archi-Talks. You were supposed to be here, but I don't know what went wrong.
Hello, I didn't hear you. I think your voice echoes a bit.
Yes, they say there's echo all the time. L'echo. Can we manage it? I'm just thankful. I mean, so we can. I'll reach out to you later. So I'm just thankful and say thank you for the time. Thank you for sharing, and let's see together in the next place. BIM Africa.
All right.
Yes, BIM Africa does offers trainings. Have you talked of it?
Yes, yes. So, like I mentioned, we carry out mostly awareness programs and events. As an organization, because we are not for profits, we do mostly events and awareness programs. So, last year we had a month-long program with BIM Arambi, with BIM Community Africa, which is another NGO as well that's based in South Africa. And then we also plan on doing a physical event sometime next year. So we mostly carry out events and awareness program. But besides that, we also partner with other training institutions, the likes of Insatiable Academy in Rwanda,
Yes,
and Blaze Academy in Nigeria, and so many other academies we also partner with to now do structured training that are not just awareness. So, which is why I mentioned about the Blaze Online Academy earlier.
Okay, I will invite everybody in the attending here. If you want to know more about his work, you can go on blazeinc.com or .org.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Blazeinc is .com or .org.
Okay, yes. So, like I mentioned, it's an online academy where we create online courses. It works similarly to the way LinkedIn Learning works. Yeah. So we create structured courses and put up on the platform. Actually, we aggregate those courses from instructors, which are mostly African instructors. So we create courses around various software, around tools, around BIM, and even things that are outside of the construction industry. So we create those courses, and as a member of the platform, you can access all those courses. So we have both monthly and annual subscriptions. So of course, the link is blazeme.com, which I showed earlier. Maybe I can share my screen again. Okay. So yes, so this is the link here, blazeme.com. So if you visit this link, you will see what the platform looks like, and you will see basically you can enroll on the platform as a subscriber, and you can access all the courses on the platform. So I don't know if you can still see my screen, but
yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, so this is what the platform looks like. As you can subscribe on the platform and you can access all those courses. So when you visit the membership page here, you see the various courses that are there. So you can see some of them on different tools, things like Grasshopper, Revit, rendering, and so many things. So basically, we create all these online courses, and once you subscribe on the platform, you can access all the courses. And this is something we are still working on. We are adding more and more courses by the day. So like I mentioned earlier, we have 2 subscription plans. You can either subscribe on a monthly basis or on an annual basis. But once you are subscribed, you can go through all the courses. As long as the subscription is active, you can access all the courses we are putting on the platform. So we also have a package for students. So once you're a student, you are able to verify that you're a student. We have the student package, which is much cheaper, but it's just the same thing. Once you're a member of the platform, you have access to all these other things. And then we also have this free content on the blog page. So every 2 weeks, we organize live sessions to discuss around issues in the industry. So we invite people to talk about issues in the industry. So all these ones are freely available. You can watch all the sessions, all the live sessions we have. So every 2 weeks, we always have sessions to discuss around issues in our industry with focus on the African build sector. So that's basically what the platform is all about.
Okay, great. So I'll invite everyone who wants to train in BIM, to understand more about BIM, to have basic knowledge and even deeper knowledge in BIM, to just use that link and become a member. The information is yours. It's up to you to seize it. So, Onyema Udeze, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much for your time too. So,
Okay, have a great afternoon and
all right, you too. Take care.